Hello students, welcome to MCQ discussion video on Medico apps. Today I'm going to discuss a question on Ellis classification which has been frequently asked in All India PG exam and other PG exams as well. Now Ellis classification is basically a topic which can be studied in endodontics, the oral surgery, pedodontics. So now you can understand that why so many questions can be framed from this Ellis classification. So let's see today's question along with its options. So here the question which is it's an image based question. Okay, so what the question is saying? The question is asking, according to the Ellis classification system, trauma 2 to 1 is classified. So this is the tooth which it is asking question on according to the Ellis classification. Now, the key point here in this question is the Ellis classification. That means you should know about the Ellis classification, which we are going to discuss quickly in this video discussion. And what are the options? Class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4. So how many classes are there? We will all discuss in this video lecture. So let's start by understanding and eliminating the options and getting the answer for you for this MCQ. So let's start with the Ellis classification. Ellis classification is basically a classification system which is better known as Ellis and Davey's classification. And this is the most common classification which is used for the tooth fracture, which means the tooth trauma. Okay. Now, this Ellis and Davey's classified this tooth fracture or tooth trauma into 9 classes. Yes, today I'm going to discuss all these 9 classes quickly, and then it will be easy for you to eliminate the options and get the answer for the MCQ. So let's start by first discussing the class 1 Ellis classification. So Ellis classification 1, class 1, this is very simple. This is just a simple fracture of the crown where it involves only the enamel. So as you can see in this image, only the enamel is involved, and I don't have to discuss this, but let me just quickly brief you that this portion is known as the enamel, this is the dentin, and this is the pulp. You all know that. This is the basic for a tooth structure. So if only an enamel is fractured, that is the Ellis class 1. Okay, that is the Ellis 1 fracture. Class 2, what is class 2? So definitely when we are moving from enamel, it will now involve the dentin as well. So as you can see in this image, there is yellowish discoloration when a enamel and dentin, both of these are involved. So if you see, this is a more better image where the enamel is fractured and even the dentin is now involved. That is the class 2, Ellis class 2 fracture. But the dental pulp is not yet involved in class 2 fracture. Okay. Moving to the class 3, Ellis class 3 fracture. And Ellis class 3 fracture, what we have seen, class 1 was enamel, class 2 was enamel and dentin. Now what else you must be expecting from class 3? So definitely we are going to now expect a fracture which is involving enamel, dentin and pulp. Yes, and that is the image which is shown in our question, where the enamel is involved, the dentin is involved, and now the pulp is involved. If pulp is involved, you will get a reddish discoloration in the tooth structure. So as you can see in this image, this is the same image and this is the radiograph of Ellis class 3 fracture. And mind you, class 3 fracture questions are mostly asked in the exam, and even this can be asked as a viva question. So do remember all these 9 classes, because this is one of the favorite questions of an examiner from in the endodontics, pedodontics or in oral surgery, where the examiner can ask you. And MCQs, definitely a question can be framed from Ellis classification. So I hope you have understood what is Ellis class 3, where you are involving extensive fracture of the crown with an involvement of enamel, dentin, and now there is pulp exposure. So till 3, class 3, it is very simple, enamel, dentin and pulp exposure. Moving to the class 4 fracture. What is Ellis class 4 fracture? So it is a fracture when the tooth is traumatized. Definitely there is tooth trauma. If there is tooth trauma, the tooth becomes non-vital. Now, the tooth becomes non-vital, but it is not necessary that there is loss of the crown structure. So as you can see in this image, there is blackish discoloration of the tooth. The crown is not involved, but the tooth color has become blackish in color because the tooth has become non-vital because of the trauma to the tooth. So that is class 4. Class 1, enamel. Class 2, enamel and dentin. Class 3, enamel, dentin and pulp. Class 4 is traumatized tooth, which makes it non-vital tooth. So this is the class 4. Till now we have discussed till class 4. Coming to class 5. What is class 5? Very simple. When there is total tooth loss, there is tooth avulsion. Okay, so as you can see in this IOPA, there is tooth avulsion. The tooth has completely been lost. That is class 5. Till 5, it is very simple. You have understood. I hope you have understood, and we have even got the answer for our question. But still, we'll move to the class 6 now. What is class 6? Now, class 6 is also very simple. When there is fracture of only roots, and that usually happens in case of trauma or any accident. So as you can see in this image, this is an IOPA where there is fracture of the root, and here there is no loss of crown structure. The crown structure is still intact. As you can see, the crown structure is still intact. Only the root is damaged. So the root is fractured. That is class 6. Class 1, enamel. Class 2, enamel dentin. Class 3, enamel dentin pulp. Class 4, non-vital due to trauma. Class 5, avulsion. Class 6 is when there is fracture of the root. Moving to class 7. What is class 7? Class 7 is also very important when there is displacement of the tooth. Now here again, there is no fracture of the crown or root. The root and the crown both are completely intact. Only there is displacement of the tooth, and displacement can be intrusion, extrusion, any case of displacement of the tooth can be class 7 Ellis classification. So till now what we have discussed, 6 till 6 you have understood. Till 7, now we have come to the class 7. Class 7th is when there is displacement of the tooth structure and there is no fracture of the crown and the root. Moving to the class 8th fracture. Class 8 Ellis classification is very simple. Again, when there is fracture of the entire crown. Class 6 was when there is fracture of the root. Class 7 was when there is displacement of the tooth. And class 8, now coming to the class 8 is when there is complete fracture of the crown. Now here the crown is completely damaged. As you can see in this image, the crown is completely damaged due to some trauma or anything like that. Okay, that is class 8. And lastly, class 9 is for the fracture of deciduous tooth. Okay, when there is fracture or when there is trauma to the deciduous teeth. So I hope you have understood what is class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5, class 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 classifications were given by Ellis and Davey's classification. So moving to our question again, this is a case of class 3. And eliminating the options, class 1 is when there is enamel involvement. Class 2 is enamel plus dentin involvement. Class 3 is enamel plus dentin plus pulp involvement. And class 4, what was class 4? When the tooth is traumatized and it becomes non-vital. So this was the options and how we have eliminated the options by understanding the Ellis classification from 1st to 9th. So I hope you are now able to understand the Ellis classification, which is very simple and it is the most common classification which is frequently asked in the examination also. So kindly resolve the question by keeping these classification and these images in mind, because images help in resolving the questions a lot, because once you remember the image, you can easily answer the question. Thank you for now. We'll keep resolving the questions. Good day, good luck.